Live streaming of SDR news coverage at HP Discover has been made possible by Intel Corporation. Check out Intel OpenPort IT, where you can connect with your peers at Intel on industry topics, best practices, strategies, and more. And by Microsoft, where HP and Microsoft are working together, combining their respective strengths to deliver innovative technologies to help advance your business.
Well, as Open mentioned, we're very privileged to have a guest from one of our sponsors, from Intel Corporation. Welcome to Dylan Larsen.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Dylan, you're from the Data Center Transformation Group at Intel in Portland.
Yeah, Data Center and Connected Systems Group, as we call it, and one of the big objectives we're driving is about this concept of data center transformation or modernization. Yeah.
What's driving that?
I think there's a couple of big trends. I think Meg mentioned a few in her keynote last night, but things like mobility, the transition to much higher data rates and amounts of data that businesses are dealing with. And then I think this sort of cloud transformation is driving a lot of the thing, whereas there's this sort of ever-present demand to get much more efficient as you drive these larger infrastructures to manage more and more data.
Do you see that as a step function, or is it just kind of a gradual acceleration, maybe on a strong curve?
Yeah.
Or does it move in chunks?
I think there's probably, there is a bit of a step function happening, just as I think this sort of cloud phenomenon is changing so much, and I think that's probably one of the things that is going to drive a big difference in the way these things work. I think that more and more companies of all sizes are saying, I want to either use the cloud to run my business, or I want to build a cloud to run my business.
Now, later on today, you're going to be giving a presentation here in the Tech Theater.
Yeah.
And my understanding was you're going to get a little bit geeky
yeah.
from a detail standpoint. What are some of the key points that you're going to communicate in that session?
I think a couple things. I think we're going to look at three different high-level things, which is one is how do we drive for maximum efficiency within these data center infrastructures to build out?
Yeah. Are you talking about power efficiency, or,
yes.
or what are some of the metrics or dimensions of that?
I think there's two parts. Like efficiency is a measure of both the amount of power consumed and the amount of work you get out of it. And I think that's a really important thing for people to remember, is that it's also about, if the workload requires lots of performance, you're going to want to throw performance at it, because as you munge through massive amounts of data, you're going to need to do it.
Surely.
Yeah.
Well, what other things are you going to be
Yeah, so I think it's about efficiency, it's about this sort of managing this big data, flood of data coming people's way and how they take advantage of it. And then I think the other piece is going to be around what we're doing to help optimize the workload. I mean, Intel delivers, the sort of core building blocks that make a lot of the industry happen. And we got to be able to expose sets of capabilities that might be microscopic in nature, but have a big impact on the overall solution.
Now, you also mentioned agility as being an important component of the design that you're bringing into the server market.
Absolutely. I think for us, agility is about performance. It's about being able to set a baseline of capability that you can do virtualization, to move virtual machines around very quickly, so you can deliver a new service in minutes versus months or days, right?
From an agility standpoint, what's your product life cycle? How many months does it take to make a turn from the point that you're trying to react or trying to set a trend within the market?
Sure. We have long development cycles to build the microprocessors, because they're massive engineering efforts. I mean, we're talking about billions of transistors on a piece of silicon. But we operate, because we plan ahead early, and we operate on what we call a tick-tock cadence.
The famous cycle.
Yeah, the tick-tock cadence. So every year, we're doing a refresh of the microarchitecture, or a refresh of the product line, and different parts of Intel have different rates, but it all operates on this tick-tock cadence. It's very repeatable, and that gets us in a position to continue to bring new capabilities to the market quickly.
How do you keep from being technology-driven as opposed to business value-driven? Because the technology can move at its own pace.
It's true. It's true.
And how do you differentiate between those two factors?
I think that it's one of the most important things I think that we worry about a lot of times, and it's about what can we do to work with not just our OEM customers, who have obviously tremendous insight, like HP, to their customer base, but also we work with some of the largest clouds in the world as well that are delivering massive infrastructures, and they have unique insight about the products. And they said, if it just did this, we would be it'd be really valuable to us.
Can you think of an example?
I think it comes down to things like power efficiency. It comes down to things like the number of cores that they can throw at their problem. Some people have workloads that are very, very threaded. So that means they can take advantage of every bit of compute that we have, and other workloads are not.
Right. Well, I know from a video editing standpoint, I just love to look at that and see all those cores working, all of them maxed out.
I love that too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because there's going to be another turn.
It's good work, right? Happening.
Yeah, exactly. So. Other than your session, which of course you're very modestly going to promote here.
Yes, of course.
What other sessions should people make sure to go to HP to take a look at?
Yeah, I think that any of the sessions in the Innovation Theater, I looked at that lineup, that's where my session will be, promoting myself a little bit. That will be a great place to look to see. There's a couple sessions on the moonshot architecture that I think are interesting to go through. Mark Potter did one last night that was really, really good. I think that also looking online at hp.com and intel.com, you'll get to see a mix of both of the sets of sort of content and capabilities that we'll be discussing here today.
So did Moonshot fit into some of the work that you personally were doing, or
yeah,
you have other folks doing it?
Yeah, no, I mean, Moonshot, so I manage the product lines for all the server business, and one of the products that was a codenamed Centerton was one of the first Moonshot products, chips that went into the Moonshot design. So that's one of my products,
Yeah, so you really have to balance this again, the power versus the performance and efficiency.
You really do, and I think that there's no one size that fits all. I mean, really, the sophisticated customers really know what their workload requires, right? And I think that's what we stress, is making sure that you're looking at the whole picture, the total cost of ownership to operate this thing, as well as how much performance you need to throw at the problems that you're trying to do.
All right, so where should people go for more information on how Intel is working with HP?
Yeah, I think that's a great. Here at the event there's an Intel booth, which is kind of right next to an HP booth, and we've kind of situated that closely. But I think Intel.com is a good place to see. We have case studies with HP and other industry players in the industry, and I think that's a good place to start. Intel.com/datacenter.
Okay, Dylan, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Absolutely.
Thanks to you folks for joining us, and again, thanks to Intel for making this streaming presentation possible here for SDR News. I'm Andy McCaskey. We'll see you with more coverage for HP Discover.